From KPRC2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee has been a busy man since being elected in 2020, whether it's been dealing with implementing pandemic-related voting issues and the lawsuits resulting from it, or representing Harris County on the front lines in environmental issues. There seems to not have been a dull moment or two, and yet he's announced he'll be running for re-election in 2024. Christian Menefee joins me this morning, and I thank you for making time to be here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what is it about this job that you love so much that made you say, I'm going to announce, right now, so far ahead, that you're going to run for re-election?
Well, Cambrell, it's a very serious job, and I think that the residents of Harris County expect me to take it seriously, right? You dress for the job that you want, and you need to be prepared early. So it's only 2023, but I think that the voters of Harris County expect me to put my best foot forward, and that means not waiting until the end of the year or waiting till the start of the year next year, but instead letting them know my intentions now.
So when you first ran, you made some promises that you said, we're going to do this when we get the job done. What were some of those promises, and how have you done in trying to keep those promises?
Yeah, one thing I really focused on when I first came out the gate was environmental injustice. Too many times we see companies polluting disproportionately in brown and black neighborhoods and lower income neighborhoods, and we don't see anybody in the state really taking it to those companies. So we have really transformed the Harris County Attorney's Office to be the face of those fights. We've sued many large companies for pollution in areas like Manchester, predominantly Hispanic, Fifth Ward, predominantly African American. We've sued the state of Texas for their failure to go in and enforce environmental laws in these neighborhoods. So I think we've held true to our campaign promise to put environmental justice at the forefront. But also elections. We've seen time and time again our state legislator out in Austin trying to pass laws that impact election processes here on the ground. And so when there have been opportunities to stand up in the courtroom to protect election processes and voting rights here in Harris County, we've done that time and time again.
So elections, you said, have been a big part of your tenure, whether it was coming to make voting more accessible during COVID, which was unique and certainly increased voter output in terms of people coming to the polls, all the way to the recent legislative session. You mentioned that, making it illegal for Harris County to have an elections administrator. Let's talk through both of those issues, starting with the most recent. Now, the elections administrator, I know that you challenged that, and the Supreme Court has said that it's going to have to change. Your thoughts about what's happened in that progress?
It was a very challenging case and a very tragic set of events. Basically, the state legislature passed a law that would only ever apply to Harris County, abolishing our elections administrator here in only Harris County. I firmly believe that the law is unconstitutional, so we challenged it. And we got a district court out in Travis County to rule that we were likely to win on our case, that the law was unconstitutional. But unfortunately, the case went up to the Texas Supreme Court, which is a court that is staffed by all Republican members who are politicians who have to run for election just like anybody else. And they ultimately did not grant us the emergency protection that we needed. So the elections administrator office has been abolished here in Harris County. But that said, those duties are going back to our Harris County clerk and our tax assessor. And I have the utmost confidence that those folks are going to be able to handle the job. And I'll be right by their side to protect them moving forward.
So it seems like there is this state legislature against Harris County kind of vibe thing going on. You get that sense that there are a lot of things going on that Harris County, no matter what you do, you're going to have a problem with state folks who are in charge?
Absolutely. I think it's good politics for Governor Abbott, for Attorney General Paxton, for Senator Paul Bettencourt to just throw every single thing they can, every single accusation, every single attack at Harris County, because the leaders of this county think differently and look differently than those folks out in Austin. But I think that every single person in Harris County who cast a ballot for their local representatives expect for those folks to be empowered to make decisions on their behalf. So my commitment as county attorney is to protect that authority and to ensure that when people vote for their local officials, they're empowered to make decisions.
What is the recourse going forward? I mean, because the numbers really showed that in spite of COVID, the numbers were really astounding in terms of how many people came out to vote. It would seem that the goal in a democracy is to get as many people to vote as possible. What kind of frustration have you had, setting the county attorney hat aside for a moment, about not being able to continue to do that?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you have leaders of only one party who aren't interested in having as many eligible voters vote as possible, and that's incredibly frustrating. The goal of our democracy should be a multicultural, voter access democracy that allows every single eligible voter to cast their ballot in an efficient manner. But instead, we're seeing out in Austin laws passed that impede impede that process. So that's why I'm so active in these voter rights fights, is because I think that the folks out in Austin don't want people out here.
Well, they say it's about safety. They want to make sure that it's done well, safe, that there's no fraud involved and stuff like that. Your response to that?
There are election issues in counties throughout the state of Texas. Why is it that you would only pass laws that impact the county that's run by black and brown people? If this were really about safety, why weren't you passing laws to fix elections back when Stan Stannard was messing them up in Harris County? I firmly believe that this has nothing to do with election integrity or safety. This is about keeping folks who look a certain type of way from voting, and it's about weakening officials of a different party who look a different way, who think a different way than the folks who are passing these laws out in Austin. You
talked about the environmental thing, and really you've pushed on so many different fronts about that. One of them had to do with not only what's going on in the air, but the Fifth Ward cancer cluster is going on. What's the latest on those kinds of things? Are there some pending cases that we don't know about that you're pursuing, and what's the status of those? There's
a lot going on right now. As you know, individuals who live in that community have filed lawsuits against Union Pacific over creosote contamination, and I've collaborated with the mayor and the city of Houston. We have the county and the city on board, along with the local nonprofit, to get the EPA to come in and take over the investigation and cleanup proceeding. This is an incredibly important issue. I can recall vividly being out in the Fifth Ward area, walking around with a community member and her telling me, in this household you had 2 members who died from cancer. In this household, one of the children had cancer. In this household, the grandmother had cancer. It's an issue that folks have turned their back on for far too long. So I'm excited at the prospect of real solutions being had over there. But I think what you've seen is the state of Texas and their environmental enforcement authority asleep at the wheel for years. And so I'm grateful for the leadership of local leaders and now the EPA to come in and try to find solutions.
So I want to ask you, what kind of legacy do you want to leave as a county attorney?
My goal is to make sure that I'm paving the way for the next person who looks like me to be able to serve in a capacity. When I took over this job, I was the youngest person and the first African American to ever hold this job. I came into an office of about 300 people who I are managing, some of whom have been practicing law longer than I've been alive, right? And I'll never forget, there was a kid at a local school who picked me to be the person who he emulated for his Black History Month program, right? That meant so much to me because it's really about the next generation. I've created a program, the Summer Legal Academy for the Harris County Attorney's Office, where we take high school students from public high schools who would never have had any interaction with a lawyer, with a judge. We put them in a 2-week program. We expose them to lawyers, to judges. We teach them about applying to law school, about being a law student. So if my legacy is anything, I hope that 10 years from now, I'm shaking the hands of a few of those kids as they get sworn into the Texas bar.
Good deal. We want to talk to you a little bit extra on Newsmakers Extra, if you'll stick around for a moment.
Absolutely.
All right. Christian Menefee, Harris County Attorney, thank you for your time today and for your public service.
Thank you.